It's episode 15 of the Demo Guys podcast. We are back. I am Sam Kaplan, CEO of Brand Ambassador Consultants, joined as always by Jason Smith, CEO and founder of Velocity Goats. We are the Demo Guys, and this is the Demo Guys podcast. It's been a while since we've done an episode. Things have been very busy the last couple months, but there's a topic that we're going to get to today that kind of brought about this episode, and that is an article that came out, I think, last week by the Wall Street Journal, the Amazonification of Whole Foods. So Jason and I have plenty of thoughts on that. We're also going to talk about recent legislation that was passed that's going to see an end to THC-infused products in November of 2026. And that's going to affect a lot of brands in our CPG space. It's going to affect farmers, a lot of hemp farmers out there. So once again, the farmers getting screwed over by the government. What else is new? We'll talk about that. But also want to thank our sponsors before we get into it. We are the Demo Guys podcast is sponsored by both PromoMash and Trusted Herd, two resources that both Jason and I rely on a regular basis to conduct business for the Brand Ambassador Consultants Agency, for Velocity Goats, and then the combined agency of the Demo Guys Agency, the offshoot of this podcast. PromoMash is our CRM of choice. That's how we manage our demo programs, how we manage our brand ambassadors, keep everything scheduled and organized. You can check out PromoMash at promomash.com. PromoMash also offering other valuable resources in the CPG space. And also our newest sponsor, Trusted Herd. Excited to be working with Trusted Herd, having them on board with us. Trusted Herd is the #1 go-to community for brand ambassador talent, whether it be in CPG or any other type of gig work. Trusted Herd is your source. Go to trustedherd.com, whether you're a brand or agency looking for talent, that's the place to go. Or if you're a brand ambassador that's watching our broadcast right now, either a recording or live, and you're looking to get more gigs going into 2026, Trusted Herd is free for the brand ambassador. It's free for the talent. So highly recommend going to trustedherd.com and creating a profile today. But Jason, we're going to get into our first topic. We're going to save Whole Foods for a couple minutes here, but I want to talk about the legislation that was passed last week that will institute the ban of THC infused products at some point in 2026, November of 2026 to be exact. And I just read a story before we went live. There's apparently a congresswoman who is trying to repeal that bill as soon as possible. But I was very disappointed in the approach and how this ban was passed. It was lumped into the spending bill that was voted on by both sides of Congress, the Democrats and the Republicans last week, that basically opened up the government again. Air travel is now starting to get back to somewhat normal levels. A lot of people that were employed by the government that either were furloughed or were still asked to work without being paid, they're now going to start getting some paychecks again, which is very much needed. The ironic thing is you look at Congress, which had a 9-week vacation. And a lot of those Congress people, they own other businesses. They're very wealthy, or they trade tons of stock based on the inside information that they accumulate through being a elected official. For 9 weeks, they got paid while the working man and woman, representing our government, doing, doing security at airports and all types of other government jobs, the air traffic controllers, they didn't get paid the last 9 weeks. So it's absolutely ridiculous. But the problem I have with it is that it was Congress didn't convene and discuss the merits of THC infused products. It got lumped into one big bill, which was tied into the reopening of government and getting people that have not been getting paid, getting them paid again and getting things moving. And it was lumped into that. And of course, Republicans and Democrats feeling the pressure to get the government reopened. This was included in that bill. And of course, it just, it passes. I can go on about this, but I want to take a pause here, Jason, just see if, any initial reaction to this story.
It's one of those things to me that I feel like that's a big, you have to like look at, I don't know if it's a conspiracy thing, but I feel like there's always a reason for these things to happen. And I feel like there's always money behind these decisions and why. And you have to think about THC infused gummies, whatever drinks, probably taking a big dent out of the sales of the big alcohol brands, like we already know it is, right?
Yeah, probably it is. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's a conspiracy at all. I think it's fact.
Well, and so, a lot of lobbyist money out there. I just think there's a lot of money getting thrown at these people who are signing their names to these things. I really feel like this is being driven more from the dollar aspect and what's hurting another industry and how can they get something passed to where it's going to have them leverage, their alcohol sales. And honestly, to me, like, it's very important that we realize the value of having something besides alcohol that can then help people with their mental state and things like that. THC is so different, and it's it grows naturally and from the earth. And to me, there's really, there's so many case studies on how it's helped people, right? And I know for myself, from personal experience, like, for people who don't know me, I've had 14 surgeries on my legs. I've used it for pain, and there's nothing like it. There's nothing that works better for me. And so I rely on it at night just to sleep, because I can't sleep without it sometimes, and because of pain. And, it just really aggravates me, because I feel like it's a money decision. It's not based on any science or any reasoning. Like, there hasn't been more, from my knowledge or experience, and maybe I'm just missing the bus, but there hasn't been an uptick in disastrous car wrecks and stuff like that. In fact, I feel like, it's safer now. Like, alcohol impairs your judgment considerably more than THC does, especially someone who uses THC on a regular basis for pain or for mental or anything like that. It's a different experience completely, and your body you build up a pretty significant tolerance to THC to where most people can function every day using it and you never even know that they were using it, right? Alcohol, there's no way you're going to be able to get stuff done efficiently and effectively if you're drunk, right? There's just no way. I'm not going to build a spreadsheet drunk, right?
I mean, let me book 100 demos while I'm half in the bag.
So but long story short, it really, I feel like we took a big step back as a country. That's where I'm at with it. It's frustrating to me. I feel really bad for a lot of the brands out there and the people who are trying to do. I know there's a lot of people who are in that side of the industry who are really trying to make an impact for people like myself, and I've been a big part of that myself. And it's frustrating. So,
and I think it's flat out corruption. I think Big Beer, has a powerful lobby. I wouldn't be surprised that, it was just an opportunity for a lot of these Congress people that have taken these meetings with Big Beer through lobbying firms to execute the wishes of their big money donors. Yeah. And the little guy kind of gets screwed out of this. The consumer, it's a bad thing I'm not a big, truth be told, I'm not a big THC person. That being said, I do microdose it every now and then. I have insomnia. I've used I've used THC for that. I think as a I've had several injuries this year, and I've used it for pain relief. I don't, and I've gone to doctors and they want to prescribe the opioids still. The year's 2020. 5, and I want nothing to do with opioids. For me personally, it's not even an effective painkiller. I get a body high, but I can still, the injured area, I can feel everything. Everything goes numb except for the injured area. So it just, for me, THC has been a much more effective painkiller, and I microdose it, and I don't like to smoke. So for me, we have a brand ambassador consultants has a client that's a THC infused beverage, and I ordered it online, and I get it sent. And, I'll drink, they have a bottle, and sometimes I'll just do a shot or do, half a small can of it and microdose it. I don't really want to get high. It's just not for me. But in terms of, like you mentioned, insomnia, helps me out with that, and it's a great pain reliever. And I think for a lot of people, THC, and I guess they'll continue to go to dispensaries, but for a lot of people though, they use THC for stress relief, which I think is a much more, I think it's a better solution. There's a lot of people I know, they've got kids, they have stress with their families, they have stress from work, and they go to their primary care physician, they talk about the stress, the stresses they're having, and the doctor prescribes them Klonopin or Xanax, and all of these, they're basically narcotics in a lot of Klonopin is classified as a narcotic. So, I don't have those issues, but for friends and family that might be experiencing that, I think THC probably is a better option for them than some of the stuff that doctors prescribe. So, the consumers get screwed over, the farmers get screwed over. There's a lot of farms that converted to hemp farms the last couple of years, just with the corporations taking over farming and putting a lot of independent farms out of business. There was a resurgence in some of those independent farms. They found a second life through hemp farming. You look at a lot of craft breweries in select states where they're allowed to serve the THC infused beverages. Beer is not what it once was, so they create these THC infused cocktails. Sometimes they're canned and ready to go and they just buy off a distributor. Sometimes they're creating it on their own within their own brewery. And now that's going to be potentially taken away as well. So just bad thing all around. And we haven't even talked about the brands. There's a lot of great brands that have come out the last couple of years with THC infused beverages. It's a growing category. I was reading about the other day, the THC infused industry is a $28 billion industry right now. And, government comes in and uses a loophole, throws this bill into a much bigger bill and gets it approved on the back end. And the merits of the actual bill itself, whether or not THC infused products should be regulated better, regulated differently, whether that should be continued to be available, that was never a discussion. It just got piggybacked onto a much larger bill where both sides of the aisle were pressured into getting that spending bill passed as soon as possible. So, once again, government not serving the public's best interests. We don't get political here in terms of Democrat versus Republican, but I think corruption is a bipartisan issue, and that there's just this reeks of corruption, and that's all I'm going to say about that. But the main topic we want to talk about here, why a lot of people are tuning in today, and that is the recent Wall Street Journal article. I'm going to bring it up now about the Amazonification of Whole Foods. And, Jason, when this first came out, there was an uproar, and I thought you and I might be on different sides of the aisle here. But the more you and I talked about it, I think we were, as usual, we were in lockstep about this. Personally, I think the Amazonification of Whole Foods, a lot of people are panicking. A lot of brands are panicking. I think it's much to do about nothing. Jason, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on that, Sam. Whole Foods and Amazon have been together now for 8 years. This is not new. This is not new news, right? Everybody knows Amazon owns Whole Foods. Will things change a little bit? Potentially. Have things changed a little bit every year since Whole Foods was acquired by Amazon? Yes. I mean, it's not going to deter. You have to know this. Like, Whole Foods knows what they're doing, and so does Amazon. They're not going to merchandise Doritos next to Siete. You have to understand that. And if you've walked into a Whole Foods and you've actually been able to sign in and go in the back room of some of these stores, I know the store in Plymouth Meeting here in Pennsylvania has been completely changed into a distribution center and back. So I think they're going to be selling products like that from the back, but it's not going to be hitting shelf. And yeah, maybe they'll put a certain like kiosk area or something that makes it available in the stores. Who knows? But it's not something that's going to affect the Whole Foods shopper. And most of them probably won't even know it's happening or even care. I did a demo. It's funny, the day that article came out, I had a demo scheduled. So I asked a bunch of people who were shopping, who were, while I was doing the sample, I was like, does that affect, how you see Whole Foods? They're like, we've known Amazon's owned Whole Foods for years, or we still shop here. Like, it's not changing anything for us. And typically that's going to be what most people think about this. Most people obviously we're in this industry, we're a lot more tied into it. The majority of people who shop don't care. Like, they want to know what they like. They know what they like. They know what they're shopping for. They're going to go there regardless, and they're going to go buy it. And it doesn't matter what Amazon does to Whole Foods, as long as they keep the same thing, the same things, it's the same principles that they built on for years and years since 1980. And I think that's going to still remain. It's not going to go away.
Yeah, and I think that the change that people are going to experience will not be in the center of the store. It's going to be in the back room. Whole Foods and Amazon, they have so many different elements to their delivery services now, and it just makes sense to piggyback these more popular items in some instances with these items that people are ordering through Whole Foods. It reminds me of a DoorDash situation. If you've used DoorDash, I'm sure you've been prompted to double dash. And what double dashing is, let's say you order food from your local pizza establishment and it's maybe 2 minutes away from 7-Eleven. There's going to be a notification that pops up and says, hey, you've got 10 minutes to double dash. You can, in addition to your pizza that you just ordered from Papa John's Pizza, which no one should be eating, but anyway, just threw that name out there. You can also get, Tylenol from 7-Eleven. Your driver will stop on the way to you. And I think that's what this is. It's like, hey, you're ordering Uncle Matt's orange juice and, Zevia ginger ale, but, you can also get some Doritos added to that order as well. And so I don't think it's going to actually impact the customer that's in the store. It's like you said, Jason, I don't think we're going to see Doritos merchandise next to Siete. I don't think you're going to see Coca-Cola merchandise next to Olapop. I don't think that's going to happen. I just think it's a profit maximum. They're optimizing their profit. That's what Amazon's doing. And I think that brands, a lot of the all natural, better for you brands that we communicate with on a daily basis, I think their big concern is what happens if Doritos and Coke ends up on the shelves at Whole Foods. Is that going to take away opportunities from my product, my brand, to get accepted to Whole Foods or remain on the shelves there? And I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Whole Foods is going to change their identity to that effect. I think the bigger story that no one's really talking about is the Whole Foodsification of Amazon, because now there are certain products that I've been ordering through Amazon. But now if they're carried through Whole Foods, I cannot order them off an Amazon distribution center. I have to order it through Whole Foods. And for years, Whole Foods delivery, provided I ordered $50 or more, was free with my Amazon Prime membership. I didn't have to pay any additional fees as long as I hit that $50 minimum. Now, in recent weeks, when I try to order something from Whole Foods delivery, I am prompted to basically pay for a secondary subscription. On top of my Amazon Prime membership, I am now being asked to pay $10 a month for a Whole Foods delivery membership that will get those that will get separate fees waived, fees that didn't exist as recently as 8 weeks ago. So, that's a big issue. And the real big issue for me is there's certain supplements that I order from Amazon. There's a fiber supplement that I rely on. And I love to get it at Kimberly Whole Foods across the street, but the distributor that brings it in, it's not always there. So as a backup, I got to go on Amazon and order off of it. And it was great. I would get, a large canister for about $24 of the fiber. And it would be delivered under my Prime membership for no additional fee. And I would get it within, 24 hours in many situations. Now that fiber, because it's also sold at Whole Foods, I can no longer order it through Amazon. I can only order it through Whole Foods. And the price is more, and I've got to pay that $10 fee, even if I hit the $50 minimum, because I'm refusing to pay the $10 a month to pay for free Whole Foods delivery. So suddenly this supplement and a couple other products that I like to buy from Amazon, because they're carried by Whole Foods, I can no longer order them through Amazon, only through Whole Foods. And the price on them have gone up exponentially now that I had to buy it through Whole Foods. We have some live viewers here. We've got some potential, brand founders, maybe even some C-suite executives. I would love to see in the comments, an answer to my question here. And if you don't get the question in on the live stream, I'd love to hear about it through email off air. My question is, for a brand, let's say your product, because there's two different digital channels. There's direct to consumer, and then there's e-com. And in recent years, a lot of brands have given up their direct consumer business and channeled everything to e-com. You'll go on certain sites, and when you try to shop online, it just takes you to the brand's Amazon store. So let's say a brand that started in digital, they're doing a lot of business through Amazon. They present their item to a Whole Foods buyer. It gets authorized and accepted. Does the customer lose the ability to order that brand's product through Amazon? And are they forced now to only be able to buy the product through a secondary paywall, Whole Foods and the Whole Foods delivery membership? If that's the case, that could really disrupt a lot of e-com business for brands that are both selling a lot through e-com, but also are carried physically inside of Whole Foods. So I'm curious to see how that'll impact. I tried to order Carbone the other day. Couldn't find the vodka sauce at any of the Giants near me, which is where I bought it. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to go on Amazon and I'll buy a jar. And because the vodka sauce is carried at Whole Foods, if I only wanted to buy one jar, I had to do it through Whole Foods. And then there was an option if I wanted to get the vodka sauce through Amazon, the minimum order was a 4-jar pack. So I would love to hear from brands that might be watching this podcast live or on archive. Have they seen a change? How is your digital, if you're carried by Whole Foods in the store, has your digital business, your e-com business, been impacted by some of these changes? I'd love to know answer that question. Jason, before we go on to the next topic, anything you wanted to add here?
No, you nailed it. I mean, honestly, that was a really good recap on everything, and I agree with you. The Whole Foods is still going to be Whole Foods. That's the big thing I think we need to take away from this. Whole Foods knows their customer. They do a lot of research. They don't do anything by accident. And Amazon and Whole Foods have a lot of money to make these decisions and a lot of people behind it. And yeah, maybe it won't work at the level that they hope it does, but I do think it's going to, I don't know, Sam, like we had this discussion offline, but hey, if you're entertaining for a party and for Christmas or something, and you can do a one-stop shop now, just ordering from Whole Foods and Amazon all together like that, and to satisfy some people who might not be like into Whole Foods, like, hey, I can get Siete chips for most of the people, but some people just aren't going to eat them. I'll get some Doritos too. And now you can do that. And that's it gives you the advantage of the consumer as well. So.
And, one thing that I saw, I'm sure you saw it too, when, the LinkedIn post came out last week, a lot of people worked themselves into a hysteria responding to the Wall Street Journal article and many other subsequent articles that came out. And some people were complaining and asking questions about some of the changes themselves. But some people used it as an open forum to just go off about Whole Foods and any negative experience they had. And, separately, there was a post by a demo agency, and we're not going to name the name of the agency, and it's not because we're trying to be passive aggressive. We're trying to protect their image. We're trying to protect them. And if they're watching this podcast and they'd like to talk to us offline about, what we're about to say, happy to have that conversation. We're refraining from naming the agency to protect them as a benefit to them. But, an agency went out, and separately from some of the changes, went online and went very public and was I detected some vitriol towards some of the back end systems in terms of organizing, scheduling, and executing sampling demos at Whole Foods. And, it speaks to some of the negativity that I saw last week in those responses to the Wall Street Journal article. People, you can't bite the hand that feeds you. Yeah. Whole Foods isn't perfect. No retailer is perfect. There's upsides and downsides and pros and cons to working with different retailers, different distributors, different brokers, and all different types of partners in this industry. But Whole Foods, by and large, is a company that cares. And it's still, Jason, you use the term all the time. It should be the North Star for better for you brands. Yeah. And it has been for quite some time, and it still needs to be. And I think that, before people go negative publicly about Whole Foods, they really should stop and think about the benefits and everything that Whole Foods offers brands and agencies and consumers. And I know that, we were talking off air. You had some very strong opinions about that post that went negative.
Well, you have to understand first and foremost that I have a unique relationship with Whole Foods global team. So when that post did go out on LinkedIn, I was reached out to by Whole Foods personally, and they wanted to get on a call and discuss it with me. And obviously, I wasn't the one who posted it, so it wasn't anything to do with me or anything like that, or you, Sam. But the conversation I had with them was like, hey, we want to be better. We understand that there's a lot of things that can go wrong with demos, especially if it's not a consistent brand with us, and we want to know how we can do a better job. And to me, I actually kind of appreciate the post because that call was made, but it also is one of those things. It's like, instead of calling out everything that's negative or wrong with anything, because we all have flaws, every one of us does. It doesn't matter if you're a brand or a person, nobody's perfect, right? We've all made mistakes. And Whole Foods isn't perfect, like you said, Sam, but there is no retailer that's perfect. Whole Foods does give brands an opportunity that's very unique. And obviously, if you're in the better for you space, Whole Foods is still Whole Foods. And it's still the place where most brands have been able to successfully launch something and scale it, which you and I have been part of. So instead of presenting it as, oh, we have all these difficulties and somebody needs to fix it, maybe it's just better to say, hey, I have a solution and this is what I would do to fix it. So the conversation I had with Whole Foods was great. I presented a solution. I said, hey, I know these are issues. I've been doing this for 20 something years in your stores. It's always been an issue, but the brands themselves have to realize consistency is key. If your USW is so low and you walk into a store like, oh, we're going to start doing demos, and you're expecting that buyer who's held to store stock levels, which is, truck to shelf in Amazon language, like they can't have back stock on products that aren't in their top 100 items sold in the store, period. They're not allowed to. And they're counted against if they do have that. So say brand A has never done a demo in the store before. And they say, hey, buyer, I am coming in to do a demo for the first time at your store, order 10 cases of each flavor. That buyer is going to look at the sales records and they're going to be like, there's no way I'm going to take a risk on myself and order 10 cases of each product. So they're probably going to underbuy, and you're going to have to go in and prove it a couple times. And that's the way demos work. But here's the great thing about that. When you build that relationship with that buyer and you consistently go in there and you do a good job for them, they're going to get behind you and they're going to order whatever you want. And that's what you need to get to. But it's not going to be overnight. It's not going to take one demo. Now, also, calling out the stores and calling out the process for Whole Foods to do the demos, saying that this doesn't work. Yeah, there's some challenges with the portal. I'll say that thing could be updated. It's not the most user-friendly thing in the world. There could be improvements, especially with technology and AI. I think there's going to be improvements. It's just going to happen. That being said, present a solution. If you think you can create a better portal or something, sell that to Whole Foods and do it. But don't just complain about it. That's all I got to say. Like, there's a solution, find it, submit it, and try to make something work. So at the end of all this that happened from that post and that call, I'm able to work with a brand now with Sam, and we're going to give them a huge advantage in December with Whole Foods partnership, because we're going to have product sent to the stores, and we don't have to even work with the order writers on it. And that was the solution right there. That's all I presented, and it worked. So something. And I think
one of the sentences in that post was, the system's broken. And I wholeheartedly disagree with that, because Jason, we're seeing it on a weekly basis. We have multiple clients, not to put ourselves over or promote ourselves. We have multiple clients where we're doing a lot of demos for them at Whole Foods, and the numbers are good and they're getting better and they're growing. And I got needled by a founder, a friend of mine. She sent me a text, with a link to the article and said, "Oh, are you still bullish on Whole Foods now?" And I go, "Absolutely." For two reasons alone. Number one, if I started my own product, if I was a brand founder, Whole Foods, I can go in and I can demo my own product. You can't say that about every retailer. And I can demo my own product. And if I'm strategic about it, I can go to stores where there's a lot of people. There's retailers out there that don't let you demo your own product, or some retailers that do let you demo your own product. But as you would say, Jason, you can roll a bowling ball down the aisle while you're doing your demo and not hit anybody. The other big thing is you don't have to pay for your data. You don't have, and I was reminded of this last week on a call with one brand partner as we're trying to schedule the third round of demos. We're trying to be strategic about where we're going to go. And I'm like, hey, I'm asking for, let's look at the numbers. Let's see where we have inventory. Let's see let's look at the analytics. And it's for a retailer that's not Whole Foods. And they're like, we don't know. Like we don't know how well. They didn't know. They couldn't tell me how well the product was selling, or even if it was selling. They were relying on our promo mash report saying, hey, all right, this demo sold 35 units, so there's probably only going to be 5 left. We're not going to go back to this store. Let's go to the store where we sold 12 because there's probably going to be enough product to warrant doing a follow-up demo. And at Whole Foods, you don't have to go through IRI. You don't have to go through spins. If you know how to use their vendor portal, which is separate from the demo portal, if you go in and you learn it, or you hire someone that does know it, you can go in and you can get all that data and see what your sales are. I don't think it updates on a daily basis, but I think it updates weekly. But you can see your daily sales analysis. You can see where you're strong. You can see where you need to improve, and you don't have to pay a dime for that. And there's so many brands out there, better for you brands. If they are working with a different retailer, in many instances, they don't have access to their own data. They have to pay for it, which is just asinine to me, that a company can come in, pay a retailer for that data, and then hold an exclusive on someone else's information. But that's how this industry works. And Whole Foods is one of the lone exceptions. So you got those two things right there, Jason, and the system, not perfect, but it's a lot better system than a lot of other retailers out there, the ones that they're running right now. And the other big thing is, Jason, Whole Foods doesn't have to let people come in out from the outside and do demos. They created a compromised hybrid solution when Interactions got the contract. I think initially Interactions, I think we're going on about 8-10 years ago, when Interactions first got that contract to preside over the Whole Foods demo program. I think the initial plan by Interactions was everything would have to be done through Interactions. If you were a brand at Whole Foods and you wanted demos, Interactions wasn't going to be the only game in town. But Interactions created a hybrid system where if you don't know anybody in this industry and you need to get demos done right away, you can use Interactions and book their team members. Or you can use your own team of choice and send them in. And I would love for more retailers to start doing that hybrid solution where it's a compromise, where you do have the third party of choice that's in-house with the brand, that's tethered directly to the retailer, or the brand can opt out and go with a different plan. And I'd love to see that more. So shout out to Whole Foods. The other thing, Jason, is what the behavior of one agency can affect the futures and the present of all the agencies out there in this industry. So it's very important for agency owners, before they go negative publicly, to be mindful about not just how their negative post could impact their own fortune, but the fortunes of other agencies in the industry. And a big example of this is Wegmans. Brands cannot do demos, and agencies cannot do demos at Wegmans. Yeah. Wegmans can do demos at Wegmans, but no one else can. And Wegmans is one of the crown jewels of retailers, especially when it came to demos. My best demo numbers back in the day were at Wegmans. And no brands and agencies cannot demo at Wegmans anymore because of one agency. One agency screwed it up for everyone. Wegmans penalized not just the agency that committed the infractions. They said, we're kicking everybody out. And Whole Foods can do that. Any retailer can make a decision, a blanket decision that impacts the whole entire industry based on the behavior of one agency. So it's important to note that.
You nailed it, Sam. It's you really have to think before, like you said, biting the hand that feeds you. You really have to think before you do those things. It affects, that one post can have a very long effect on things for everyone, and not just agencies, like brands themselves. Like, you know, Whole Foods is a huge advantage for any emerging brand out there that's better for you. If you have one store, you should be in it. It's a farmer's market that's open every day that you can go in and sample at. That is your North Star. And if you have 20 stores and you have 50 stores, double down, because at the end of the day, you're going to build a lot of trial and awareness. They don't call it a whole paycheck for the reason that people go in there expecting to spend money. Like, it's a premium retailer. They know they're not going in there to save money. They're going there to discover. They're going in there because they want to find something that's new. They want to find, or they already know what they're looking for. And Whole Foods is one of the few retailers that still will actually merchandise it and sell it, you know, and I do that still for myself. There's so many new brands out there that have line extensions and things. And who's the first retailer to get the test? It's always usually Whole Foods. I mean, I'm going to take one, for instance, right now that I'm going back to Whole Foods today, because my wife and I shopped yesterday, and honestly, I've never been a huge culture pop guy. It was one of those things, like, the flavors were unique and cool. Did I love the taste, love the ingredients, love that they used the actual sugar instead of like stevia and stuff, so it didn't have that really heavy taste, but the flavors weren't really that appealing to me. My wife and I stumbled into some of what I believe is new innovation. They had a black cherry and a grape that I'd never seen before for a culture pop, and we're going back to buy more because they were awesome. And another one that I discovered recently too that I just absolutely love, Honey Mamas came out with a protein. It's 8 grams of protein, but it's refrigerated, kind of a snack bar type thing. And, you know, I shared those with you, Sam. They're phenomenal. Like, the taste is, the ingredients, the taste, everything. I mean, I'll take that over a David bar any day, right? I mean, it's just a great product. So, you know, Whole Foods is still doing this the right way. And, you know, brands out there who are listening, it's still your biggest opportunity in this country. You got 500 some stores across the nation that you can really build something strong in. And it's a retailer that will make you famous, because if you make it in Whole Foods, you can make it outside of Whole Foods.
You know, and Thanksgiving's right around the corner, and I just want to say I'm thankful for Whole Foods. So, you know, we're not mad at you. And to the agency that put that post out, again, we're not trying to be critical of you. This is constructive criticism. We're not naming you to be, because we're trying to be passive aggressive. We'll be more than happy. We're trying to protect you. And if you want to talk about this off air, more than happy to share our thoughts off the air and talk with you about this. But that just about does it for the 15th episode of the Demo Guys podcast. Not exactly sure when we're going to come back next. I think as we get into 2026, Jason and I will have a better plan for regular episodes of the Demo Guys podcast. But if you're confused about when we're going to go live next, there's a solution to it. Just go to youtube.com, look for the Brand Ambassador Consultants YouTube channel, hit subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And anytime we do schedule a podcast, you will be notified about the live podcast airing. You'll get that emailed to you or texted to you as well. But for Jason Smith, I'm Sam Kaplan. I want to thank our sponsors as well, Promo Mash and Trusted Herd. Until next time, we'll see you at the demo table.
Thanks, everyone.